Welcome to our Labor Day evening edition of Monday Night Memories. Of course, Rose Bowl reflections and recollections with a guy that needs no introduction to longtime Purdue fans, Jim Chaney, Purdue's OC, offensive coordinator, basketball on grass aficionado, contrarian. He did it all as a play caller for Coach Joe Tiller with a little magnetism and style as well. Very quotable guy. Most of the things he couldn't keep it on. They weren't PG most of the time, but Jim Chaney was a great guy. But talk about your memories of Jim and what he brought to the table for Coach Joe Tiller and company.
Well, I think we all know, Alan, that offensive coordinators often maybe get a little too much of the blame and not always enough of the credit. But,
yeah,
a big part of what he and Joe Tiller put together, we all got to see the fruits of their labor lived out off the arm of Drew Brees and others. But certainly that basketball on grass style, and when it came to the Big Ten and what Joe and Jim were able to put together, startled the whole league and gained such national attention. So, in some ways, Jim is maybe to the average fan, maybe an unsung hero of those years, but certainly deserving and was deeply, as you guys at GoldandBlack know, deeply involved in Purdue's great run those early years.
Yeah, and a man that was in high demand because he, after Purdue and leaving Purdue, went on to coach with the New Orleans Saints, with the St. Louis Rams at the time, and of course Tennessee, Georgia State. I think Pitt for a year. He has been a mainstay of offensive discussion, certainly in college football. So without further ado, Jim Chaney will join us for our Monday Night Memories and Rose Bowl reflections and recollections. Alan Karpick here with the legendary, I know he hates people build him up. And I admit, of all these interviews I've had the pleasure of doing, they have been a pleasure. This is probably outside of Drew Brees. If we get Drew to do it, he might beat you by a second. But Jim Chaney joins us here on Rose Bowl Recollections. And Jim, going back to when you first set foot in West Lafayette in 1997, you and the coaching staff and Coach Joe Tiller had a different way of doing things. But did you ever think, honestly, you're a truthful guy. Did you really think when you took that job and decided you and Lisa are going to come to West Lafayette that we're ever going to make it to Pasadena? Did you really, honestly, you can be truthful now. Did you?
Hell no. Going to happen? I remember telling Lisa we're going to Purdue, and Lisa saying, "Where's Purdue?" So, she's a Wyoming girl, but we found it, and you don't like you and I were talking prior to this that when you're young and this coaching, you're moving fast. You don't even contemplate things, and then we kind of got where we thought we could be pretty good, and ended up being there. And I think the scheduling and everything had a lot to do with that. But at the end of the day, we got a chance to represent Purdue, and it was a hell of an experience.
9 years in West Lafayette, the offensive coordinator from 1997 when Joe Tiller began at Purdue through 2005. And if there's a guy that's not even behind the scenes, the basketball on grass, the contrarian view towards running an offense. And yet you had, at least from a layperson's view, the most stable guy you could ever have at quarterback in number 15, Drew Brees. Talk about how that, you had Billy Dickett in year one, and Billy came in and did a phenomenal job for you. Then Drew comes in. But talk about that in terms of how that offense developed under Drew to the point where these guys are all seniors and knew what they were doing, and you guys knew what you were doing with them at that point.
Well, I think the familiarity within the offense continued to grow, and Drew's own aptitude for the game and his ability to play just kept getting better and better and better, and his confidence was such. And I can't say enough about the offensive line we had on that particular team. You look out there and you think about engineering and you think about Purdue, and look at that line from Gene and Chucky and all the way across. It was and Matt. They were all brilliant people and smart. The team was smart. Much smarter players than we as coaches. We're a bunch of dummies trying to coach these smart kids, and we didn't know any better. We didn't have staff meetings so much like we have in the past 10 years, 15, 20 years of my career. It was just, we had little chat sessions and just talking about new creative, crazy things we could try. and Joe was so open to allowing us to do that. I mean, his ability not to govern so much and to allow a bunch of young kids that had no damn idea what we were doing the freedom to grow and to explore. It was quite a think tank for us going on there.
You know, I think we had Chucky Okobe, who they don't make him like Chucky Okobe.
No, they damn sure
and
don't.
You know that, but I think it was Chucky. It might have been Ben Smith. I can't remember. One of the two that said Matt Light would sit in those offensive line meetings, and he might take a nap because and Chucky would say, you know, he'd nudge him over there and he'd be nodding off, and he said that's where I knew we had him. I mean, because Matt Light would just knew how to execute. But you had an unbelievable. I mean, I suppose any offensive line, and you've seen many of them in your career, they have different personalities, but this was a unique group. Guys that were willing to do Speedos, willing to get in front of it. They didn't put you in a Speedo.
No, thank God for that.
No, and then the limousine shoot with GoldandBlack, but this was a very unique group of diverse characters. You talk about Brandon Gorin, engineering, Matt Light, they're all very intelligent guys, but had to be, looking back, as fun a group as you could have to coach on the offensive line.
Well, I think anytime you have the intelligence, I'll get back to that.
Yeah.
They just kind of personified what you needed to do to win at Purdue University. I mean, that was just, they were what you needed. That was, Joe had a plan going in, and a lot of those kids were already there that Jim had already recruited, but moving them around and getting them in the right spot, I would say that we did a pretty solid job with that. But they just fit what we wanted to do. And the fun part of coaching smart players, they're all smart alecks. Every doggone one of them were. And it was entertaining, to say the least. But Brandon, I'll tell you a cute story about Brandon Gorin. I was always on Brandon's butt because he's so low key. Just blah, blah, blah. Come on, Gorin, fire up, get your butt going, blah, 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 blah.
That, by the way, that is not what you said. That's what you said for this broadcast. But go ahead.
There was
Oop, you froze up. Hang loose. You're coming back hopefully here in a second. Hello.
There you go.
I lost you, and that's okay. We'll edit that out. Now go.
That's okay.
Well, you were just starting with Brandon Gorin. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Gorin, because I've been on him so much, and I'm thinking that I'm with the Rams, and I think I was either coaching the tight ends or assistant line coach with the Rams, and here comes Gorin in the door. We either traded for him, assigned him as a free agent or something. He goes, "Hi, coach, I'm back." I went, oh God, I can't get rid of Gorin. But thank God for him. What a wonderful person, and I feel so blessed to have been a part of those guys because they're so unique. The personalities, my God, you think about that. You had crazy ass Vinny and then John Sandifer. I mean, just the crazy ass Stratton and then another calm guy, Gene Ruszkowski.
Or Chris Randolph,
Chris Randolph. You just had a little bit of everything, and then Drew stirred it all, and it was just a real special bunch of guys and great memories.
You know, when you look at that team, and you know, we talked offline. You played the first game in the year 2000, January 1st, 2000 at Georgia, game you'd like to forget from a Purdue perspective. Now I know you spent time at Georgia later, but how much in that? And again, you got a guy like Drew Brees, I understand, but this is a team and a program that believed in itself, but had to get over that hump. And then you start the year and you lose a couple games, Notre Dame, Penn State, that you probably shouldn't have lost. How much of that, was there any of that little nudging like, my God, we can do this, or was that even necessary with this group?
You know, my recollection is not that good about all that, Alan. I can't remember a lot of those things, other than I knew that when we left that game, I think our players knew, hey, you just played a good SEC team, and you're capable of playing with about anybody in the country. And I think there was a genuine quiet, because Joe was never flamboyant. There was just a quiet type of confidence that we walked into the next year with, I think. And I think everybody kind of knew we had a chance.
Yeah, and you did, and then some. When you look back at that early part of the year, you do start at 3-2, and then seminal moment at against Michigan at home. And I've told everybody on each one of these, it's a little known fact that probably nobody will care at a cocktail party or a coffee clutch that you go to. Purdue has never come from an 18-point deficit at halftime or at any point in the game to win. You did against Michigan, 28-10 at the half. It's still, and that hasn't changed since 2000. I know that there's been different recollections of the halftime conversations. But anything that you take from that game, because that was an amazing comeback.
Well, I think that we knew that we had to do something offensively because Brock and those boys weren't slowing them down a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So we had to control the ball and give their defense a chance. And then we ended up making a few plays and gained a little confidence and eventually went out. I believe that's the Dorsch game, right? When Travis, he did his little stunt. But yeah, I don't remember other than just the glory of beating those guys because they're a hard team to win. I mean, you beat Michigan, it's a feather to your cap. It was a good deal, and it was good. I believe Drew Henson was their quarterback at that time.
Right.
And his dad was a good friend of mine, so it was interesting just to come back like that and win that game.
Yeah, 28-10 at the half, and yet, yes, Travis missed one, but then he made one.
Yes, he did.
And that's all that you need to remember from that standpoint. You go through the gauntlet of October, and I'll take you through Northwestern on the road, a team that you end up sharing the Big Ten championship to. Great running back in Damian Anderson. Then you come back and you go to Wisconsin, a place that Purdue hasn't beaten Wisconsin, coach, since you left, if you want to know the truth. Yeah. And yet 2003 was the last win, your win up there. But when Kyle Orton threw the ball 55 times. My point is that gauntlet of games. I mean, again, as coaches, I know you say you take it 1 week at a time, but looking back, beating Northwestern, Wisconsin, Michigan, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Ohio State, that's as impressive a run, at least on the scale of Purdue football history, as it's ever happened.
Yeah, that was quite a deal. I do remember that, and we were kind of pinching ourselves, like, "Hey, don't say nothing. Let's just keep this." When you get on those runs like that, regardless of where you're coaching at, you want to play as fast as you can. Hell, let's get off the practice field and let's get our butt playing a football game. And it was entertaining, to say the least, as we worked our way to that final game. You know, when we had to do what we had to do.
I got to ask you, because Drew Brees is a guy that's hard to be, I think he threw for over 450 yards against Ohio State, but threw 4 picks. And the last one, and the guys have talked about how, it looked like things that was going to let the horse out of the barn. He runs and tackles Mike Doss at the 3-yard line, bangs him out of bounds. Ohio State scores and takes the lead. You guys get Clopton, I think it was, has a long kick return. You get a 36-yard line. Any specifics? I mean, you've called a zillion plays since then. I get it. But what do you take from – it wasn't your first play for scrimmage. I think it was the second. But the 64-yard pass to Seth Morales that got the job done. What's that takeaway 25 years ago? Or has it blurred?
It hasn't blurred. That play is 74XZ pole was the name of that play. And that was kind of our signature play. It's the fade ball that Isaac caught in the Alamo Bowl.
98, yep.
Same play. But seldom do you get all the way back to your fourth progression to Seth like Drew did. And what a wonderful progression and a great throw and a great catch in the line. My God, you can't say enough about them. They held up and we made the play. What a memory.
Yeah, Seth Morales, I think about a guy, waiting for that ball. You knew it was perfectly, but that split second where you're alone. But talk to A.T. Simpson. We'll get Seth at some point on this interview series as well. A.T. played a big role in that play.
Yes,
because the first option, and Vinny, I've talked to Vinny as well, and he has good recollections of being the first option. John Stanford.
Vinny remembers?
Well, he tells me he remembers.
Great.
First option, John Stanford. The second option, AT the third. But the key on that, and you guys coached it, you got to run your routes hard, and you got to make it look like that but those were all key things that made that play work.
And the unique part of the play was usually we ran the big fade into the boundary and the post of the field, and we'd kind of flipped it on that one and kind of flipped it on Ohio State, and Drew did what Drew does, and he worked around it. It was I can remember just like couldn't even talk. It's like, holy, I am emotional thinking about it. It's one of those things that as a coach, when you're young, it's changing. Something's changed in your life when players make plays like that. For coaches, you think so much about organizations and universities, but those plays like that change coaches' lives also. It was fascinating.
Drew's ability, and I'll set you up because my guess is it's a play you remember, but I can remember Joe Tiller talking about a play that Drew made in that game to Stanford for a touchdown where he rolls to his left. And Tiller said, there aren't many guys that can make that play. And he did that play that Drew did. He's kind of backpedaling, rolling left, hit Stanford on the run in the southeast end zone. Do you remember that? I'm sure you do if you remember Drew Brees. But
if I'm remembering right, and you'll have to ask Drew this because he don't forget anything. But in my memory, it was one of those plays that we came up with just in a chat room, just sitting around bullcrap, and we'd ran enough quarterback draw. That was a quarterback draw with a play action pass off of it. Today we know that as an RPO.
Yeah.
But then it was just, hey man, let's try this.
Yeah.
And he took off on the draw, and like, hell, there ain't nowhere to go. Everybody got their butts kicked, and he did what Drew does. He made a play, and but I believe that if I remember right, that was a quarterback draw call from me with some route concepts tagged on it, which is, I mean, we were doing the RPOs. But we had no idea what the hell we were doing. But we were doing them before everybody was doing them with the bubble screens and all that stuff.
Yeah, you talk about in the great bubble screen that you guys introduced in '97 with Vinny being such a big part of that, and you spent 4 years perfecting that. Though it was pretty good right from the get-go, to say the least. Yeah. All right, you did not play well at Michigan State after you beat Ohio State, but you had some, in some ways, some luck. First, Northwestern beats Michigan in your bye week. That was key because then Iowa turns around and beats Northwestern. You guys, I'll be kind. You laid an egg at Michigan State. Though Michigan State is still Michigan State. But
we played poorly, really bad.
Yeah, you just didn't have it that day, and that was one of those deals. But you come back preparing for Indiana with it all in front of you. What do you recall from just that prep for that game? It's a team that you'd beaten soundly your first 2 years, but year 3 in Bloomington and Antoine Randall, you can get your fill of him in a hurry if you're a defensive coordinator. Yeah. But that's a team that was dangerous heading into the senior day in the big game.
Yeah, with Antoine, that was the game we lost down there, right? In the rain.
No. That was the following year.
Okay.
In '99. You beat them 30-24 down there when Vinny has a punt return for a touchdown.
That's right.
But you're right. In the rain, it's still raining down there after that game in 2001. But yeah, that was the rain.
I believe that was the only time that I lost to Indiana in my time there. So the only reason that happened is because it was pouring down rain. We would never lose to those guys. But I can't get into that right now. No, my memory of it is just your butt's tight as a coach. You're like, my gosh, we're gotta win this game. And I think Joe might have said it at the senior deal after the game. He said, and he didn't share this with us much, but he said, I was nervous about the game. Then I started thinking about our players and I relaxed. Yeah. I thought, hey, we're better than these guys. And we were.
Yeah. All right. I got to ask you, because I've talked to every offensive lineman. I don't know what the actual figure is. Is it 27 consecutive? Is it 37 consecutive? Montrell Lowe was the beneficiary, I should say, of your choice to let him run the ball 38 times in that game. I know you have a simple answer to why you did it. But what do you remember about that?
Well, my memory is we had what was the halftime score, Alan? You would know.
You had them in hand. I think it
Yeah.
was maybe 28-7. You win the game
Yeah.
41-13.
And
Yes.
we just said, what was the final?
41-13.
Yeah. I just kind of thought, hey man, hey Joe, I remember saying I'm gonna pound this a lot.
Yep,
I'm gonna pound the ball a little bit here just to see. And we started just rolling at 4, 5, 7, 8, and I said, why the hell would I call another pass? I want to get to a cold beer as fast as I possibly can. And we just started rolling. And I do remember, I can't remember if Matt flipped me off from the field or something. But he was like telling Danny, hey, tell Chaney's big butt to call something in Matt's way. Call something else, man. This is getting. But we just kept running and running and running, and they couldn't stop it. And the clock kept ticking. And oh man, what a sight that was.
Well, your college, your coaching pedigree and places you've been, obviously with Georgia, Pitt, Arkansas, Cal State Fullerton before Purdue, New Orleans, St. Louis. But have you had many better memories than that cold night on the field, roses on the field? And you have to look at that and say, I mean, again, kind of what going back to your first question, or the first question is, did you ever think you're going to get there? By God, you did. And what was that like? And was that so people talked about having family there? I know you were busy in the middle of coaching, and your kids were just getting going from that point. So talk about that.
I don't know, Alan. My memory of it was just emotions.
Yeah.
To this day, I talk about it. I get emotional. It was, there's been games in my life. That game, the Oklahoma game in Athens when we beat them in the Rose Bowl, the Auburn SEC championship game, the Wyoming championship game. There's been big games in 40 years. There's probably 4 or 5 that stand out, and I'll never forget what that field looked like after that.
Yeah. It was cold, but nobody was cold. And it's funny in your time, your first 4 years, they always say there's nothing hotter than new love, and you guys were that way. But you were you seemed like every other week you had fans rushing the field. 3 times in 2000, you had Michigan, you had obviously the win to go over Indiana, and I'll go back to 97 with Notre Dame. But that experience of having that happen is a unique thing.
Well, I think you had a university that was dying for that.
Yeah.
It was like bottled up since your 66 game that you were talking about. It's like, poof, let's have a party. Let's enjoy this. And I can remember, talking to Gary after when he did, I think he did the broadcast of the Ohio State game, and just
he did.
He said how emotional he was.
Yeah.
After that game as an announcer, I said, yeah, no doubt that was something else. Yeah. But getting through that Indiana game, and then it was like, all right, what the hell do we do now? Now then that person handed us roses, that Rose Bowl person, and I'm thinking, my God, we're going to the Rose Bowl. It was unbelievable. Off we went.
Yeah, you had some fun experiences, obviously, and in Pasadena, there were many, 25,000 people or some ungodly number at the pep rally. Guys have talked about that at Century City being one of the great memories. You talked offline. You talked about 2 nights before having that dinner in the Rose Bowl before the game and seeing that field for the first time painted. Take back to that moment,
Alan. That was, for me, that was a revel. It was like, hey man, you're here. You're at the Rose Bowl, and the colors and the pageantry of the granddaddy of them all truly is. I've been to a lot of them. And the Rose Bowl, when you go there at that night dinner, I think it's 2 nights before, and they have the field freshly painted, and you look out over there and you realize, man, you are in the pinnacle of college football, and it is in all our beautiful colors, and then the purple from Washington down there. It was like, hell, we've already won. I don't know what the score of the game's going to be, but this is something else. I do remember that.
It's funny with Purdue fans, and you can relate, having been there for 9 years. I don't think any school has gotten more mileage, and it's not a loser's mentality. It's called an enjoy the moment mentality. Purdue loses in the Rose Bowl. I understand that. They lost in the Final Four a couple of years ago. UConn beat them. But it was people will never forget the experience. Glendale, Pasadena. When you're a Purdue fan, that sustains you for a while. Now maybe there'll be another trip to the Final Four this year in basketball. They're going to be really good. But
good, go Matt, go.
Yeah, but
I
it
follow
is
them all the time.
Oh yeah, they're hard not to like. But
yeah,
that is part of this college experience, and
yes.
the fact that you get to do, if you're fortunate enough, you get to do some really special things, and Purdue fans will forever be grateful that you guys got them to Pasadena, and that has to mean something in that career of yours.
Oh, I think it does. I think there's moments in this whole little thing we call a career that goes on that transcends the W's and the L's. And you brought up 4 or 5 of them. What a season. It's just fascinating. I get emotional just thinking about it. It's been a while since I've thought about it with all the friends that we had on those staffs, and oh my goodness, the issues we go through. My God, there's more stories. Oh man, what a bunch of good fellas.
Yeah, it's funny. There is a correlation. I always say this about, you look back all the way back to the Purdue's 1966 or 67 Rose Bowl team, some unbelievable individuals on that team, from Bob Greasy, Leroy Keys. And then there's a correlation between, and you've been around great teams at all your stops, but there really is an interesting correlation of how these guys did, what kind of lives they lead 20 years later or 25 years later. And from your assistant coaches and coaching brethren to guys on that team, you've got a lot of successful dudes that played in that uniform for Purdue in the year 2000.
Yeah, I don't think that you look back on that, and there was no question as a coach that you're coaching a bunch of young men that are going to be successful, and very proud to say you've had a part of their lives.
Yeah,
no question.
Yeah, absolutely true. Okay, one last. You had mentioned, I think it was you said when you were with Georgia in 16 or 17, you had an interesting experience with your daughter going up the elevator and seeing. Tell us about that, seeing that Purdue ticket and how that meant a lot to you in the midst of playing for a national championship.
Elizabeth was just telling me about it because we were debating. I said, what year was that? I said, was that the 2000 season? I said, no, because that was the Y2K Outback Bowl. I said, It wasn't. It was the next year. And she goes, Dad, when we went out to the Rose Bowl, when I was at Georgia and we're playing Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl, she said there was I don't remember if she said it was a stairway or an escalator that you go up and they have all the tickets to all the games. And she said she saw the Purdue Washington ticket and thought, I was there. Now, hell, she's 3 or 4, but she was at that game. And so it was a 2001 game, but it was just memories like that. And my wife, she'll tell you that going to the Rose Bowl parade there with Elizabeth, getting up early, and how absolutely exhausted they were at the conclusion of that day. Those are the things I remember about the game. I can't remember the ride home. I can't remember even going out there, but I damn sure do remember the beautiful part of the field, and I do remember the players that played for us.
Well, Lisa gets a gold star because she was contending with a 2-year-old in a 100,000 seat stadium.
Yes, she was.
That's her. She's got my respect from doing that. Okay, I got to ask you one question about Barry Odom, and I don't know how much you know in the coaching fraternity of him. Obviously, a guy that was in the SEC for a little while. He's been at UNLV, Purdue, trying to get back to the level that you got it to. It's not an easy thing. You know that more than anybody. Any thoughts on Barry or things that you know about him from a coach?
I've never worked with Barry, but I know people who have, and they say he's a quality guy that works very hard, even keel, and that reminds me of somebody I worked with when I was at Purdue. I wish them nothing but the best. I'm a Boilermaker fan, always have been, always will be. And I think this to continue to try to upgrade your personnel and do it however you got to get it done, then get them to play for a cause for each other, and they'll be fine. I'm excited about watching them. I got a young man that worked with me last year at Georgia State that's on that staff, David Spurlock, and Darren Henshaw and I worked together at Tennessee. So I know a few people, and Lamar obviously is on the staff. So I know people that are there, and I follow them all the time. I mean, I look around at all the places I've been. One of the first scores I always look for are the Boilermakers, and
Yeah.
when they're on TV, I'll flip to it. And now that I have a little more time, I'm sure I'll watch more of the ball games.
All right, I'm going to ask you what you're doing with your family, but one last question about just in the world of college football, and you've seen it evolve. You've seen it now to what it is, which is a new world. And I can't imagine coaching staffs, Barry Odom's got 55, 60 new players trying to get everybody together and make it work. That's a huge challenge, is it not?
Yeah, you used to go into places with a long range plan of how you're going to build your program and develop culture. And now it appears like everybody's just building teams. And
Yeah.
Not appears, it's the reality of it. Like you said, with Barry having to deal with 60 more players, how can you glue them all together and get them all headed the same way? That's quite a task. And everybody's doing whatever they have to do to buy these players with the NIL. And it's just whatever. I can't say that I'm a fan of it, but I'm not negative about it. It was inevitable. I think it was coming down the path. I'm still an advocate of someday having a super conference, and there isn't but X amount of schools that can really go and try to get where they need to be to play for the championships. And I hope that we see that someday. I think there's some unrealistic things that take place in some places that until you've been the other places, you don't really understand how far away you really are from where you got to get. And but I wish Barry and those guys nothing but the best. I don't know who they opening up with.
They open up Ball State.
That's always a pain in the butt.
Yes, it is. And they got Southern Illinois. They're not going to be – Vegas has only got them at about 2.5, 3 wins this year. But then they got their challenge this year is US. They've got those 2 openers, and you can't take them for granted, as you know. Yeah. USC, Notre Dame, Illinois will be very good this year.
That's what I hear.
In a row. And then you have in November, you've got – Michigan, Ohio State, and you dealt with that in '99 when you played them in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
You got Michigan and Ohio State at Washington and at Indiana. And Indiana right now is no shrinking violet at this point in time. So
what's going on down there? Why all of a sudden they get good? Because
I don't know. Coach,
still blocking and tackling. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Last question. I promise your family bring me up to date on what's going on in the Chaney world and what you want to share with us.
Well, my wife and I have just relocated into East Tennessee, purchased hopefully our final home. We're going to retire here, and my daughter my oldest lives in Knoxville. My youngest lives in New York City, and my wife right now is with her father at about 11,000 feet in the Wind River Mountains camping. And I'm flying back out to the cabin tomorrow to be fly fishing for 2 months. So I'm excited about it.
My guess is your life in the world of football isn't complete. There'll be people asking for your help from time to time, but for God's sake, enjoy that fly fishing. I mean,
if you see Don Collar around, tell him thank you, because he's the one that got me into fly fishing when I was at West Lafayette, and I still enjoy it to this day.
I see Don lives in in the neighborhood I used to live in. We moved about a mile, but I see Don all the time. I see his son, Chris. So I will pass that along. And I know that'll mean a lot to him. You guys, it's such a special group. Coach, thanks so much for your time. What a joy for me to be able to reconnect with you. And we'll make this an every other week event, the way I feel. But no, only after you're done with the fly fishing. But have a great time and a great fall. Paying attention to college football, but maybe not living the day-to-day. That's not all bad.
Well, that's the plan. And Alan, thanks so much for inviting me in here, because you brought back a lot of great memories to me, and I appreciate it. And all the players that you talk to, tell them all I care about them and wish them best.
Your name comes up often and rarely in vain. So there you go. You're ahead of the game.
Maybe I was nicer than I thought I was.
No, you weren't. You weren't. Take care, my friend. Thank you.
See you now. Bye.
Want to thank you for watching tonight's edition of Monday Night Memories, our Rose Bowl Reflections, brought to you by the good folks at Chariot Auto Group. And Nate, these have been fun to do. I mean, it's a privilege to be able to talk to these guys and have that experience. And I think you were just a college student at that time, but what a special time it had to have been to be a student at Purdue when this was all coming to fruition.
Yeah, I think very warm memories for all of us, Alan, that were anywhere near the program during that time, and whether that's a fan in the stands or in the old press box, just great memories that these guys, these coaches and players have created for us. And I think throughout the years, as football has its ups and downs, Alan, it's certainly worth, when you have tradition like Purdue does in football, to reflect on it and enjoy looking back on those great moments, and it gives you hope for the future.
Yeah, no doubt. And that is in the background. There's a reminder that Nate Barrett and company are doing business at Chariot Auto Group. So we appreciate them so much, and we've had a lot of fun. This is the best part of the job, is to be able to talk to some of these guys that have had great success on and off the field, have good families and relationships, and they're making a difference in their community. A big part of that as well. So without further ado, well, I should remind you, that we'll be back next week with another edition of our Monday Night Memories. And we're going to try to keep these going every Monday throughout the course of the 2025 Purdue football season. And a reminder, too, a programming reminder, make sure you tune in, text, you can chat us your questions post-game. Nate and I will be keeping the band together along with the staff of GoldandBlack.com as we break down Purdue football on a week-by-week basis on our GoldandBlack.com Saturday simulcast. So have a great week, everybody.